And we are live. Good evening, everybody. If there's anybody out there this evening, it's hard to know, isn't it, really? I know I've got a little counter at the top of my screen that tells me if there's anybody with an eye on us, that keeps an eye on what we're doing. Nobody there so far, but never mind. It is a very cold and miserable Tuesday evening. The whole of the UK is now in lockdown of some description or other. We in Wales have been in it for a little while now. But we're not going to get sidetracked by that. We're not going to be worried by that. I'm Jane Greyer from Create Ceremonies. I'm a celebrant and I love creating and conducting unique ceremonies for couples. And this is my third behind the scenes chat. Because effectively, I like finding out. I'm nosy. I like finding out what other suppliers have to do and what their job entails. I love finding out everything about everybody, really. So tonight we are going to be chatting with Julia, who very kindly has not put her surname up there for me, just to be confusing, and even more so, she hasn't put her company name up. So Julia, tell me your surname and your company name.
Okay, gosh, I should have done that, shouldn't I? You can see I don't do this at all very often. My name's Julia Cox and I'm from Harmony Event Design. That's me.
Yay. And every time I try and tag you in anything on Facebook, it's got a really, really long. So it's Harmony Design.
Do you know what it's so everybody, because people type in chair cover hire, blah, blah, and so unless you have that and people can't, they don't tend to find you. So you put a long list of things in your title of your page, and everybody finds you then. So it's worthwhile doing sometimes. But it's very long-winded. It's very long-winded, yeah.
It is. And I'm forever trying to tag you, and it's like, oh, well, that's not linking. I missed out half of it. That's fine. Brilliant. So the whole plan with the backstage chats is that effectively it's a space that people can ask questions. It's a space that I can ask questions, that effectively we find out a little bit more about what goes on behind the scenes that the couples aren't necessarily aware of, that certainly guests aren't aware of, with different suppliers across the whole of the wedding industry. So tell us, how did you get into the wedding venue dressing business? What's the background there?
Goodness me, it's a bit strange actually, because this isn't what I was trained in doing at all. I trained to be a nurse in 1986. I've done lots of different things. And I think it was about 2013, I decided to start making jam. And I had a really lovely roofer here at the time, redoing our roof, and he could smell the jam and the chutney, and he asked me if I would do wedding favours for him. So I ended up doing wedding favours for lovely Amir and Catherine for their wedding, and it was the first time I'd ever done anything like that. So I started doing that, and it went down really, really well. And so I kind of started my little business. It was called Goo's Garden because my nickname is Goo. That's my nickname.
I didn't know that.
Yes, Goo. Everybody calls me Goo. Lots of people call me Goo. That's my nickname. And so it's called Goo's Garden. So we started off like that. And because of the success of that, I started then doing wedding fairs. And I think my first wedding fair was very locally. It was up in Mudfie. And I took my jams there. And from there, I got lots of bookings for my jams as wedding favours. So I did cocktail jams, pina colada and gin and strawberry and all really lovely things like that. I did the Llandilo Festival of the Senses, and I won the food award there as well. So it kind of set it all off. I got a couple of bookings for weddings there too. And I then started to attend vintage wedding fairs because I love the vintage things. I love that kind of look. And the jams were dressed in a vintage way with little cotton hats and things like that. So they look really sweet. And from there, I kind of started looking around me thinking, do you know what? I really enjoy this. This is what I really like to do. And the thought about dressing a wedding wasn't kind of as frightening as I thought it could have been. And from, I think, my third vintage wedding fair, I actually got asked to style a wedding bring my jams along as wedding favours and style the wedding as vintage with hessian and lace and that kind of thing. So I took the plunge and I did it. So we did that, and that was back in 2015, and then we decided that we would actually form a company. I have two autistic boys, and my youngest boy, he was making the jams with me, so he was prepping the veg and I would pay him just to give him some worth, etc. And Jack now works for Harmony. He's the fastest chair cover putter on in the whole wide world. So basically, the company in its beginnings was set up to create employment really for my son. It was something that came along with Jack. And from there, we got busier and busier and busier, and it's grown and grown. And we've become a successful venue styling company 5 years later. And loving every minute of it. Jack still works for me. My mum, my gorgeous mum, she works with me all the time. She hates it if she can't come and dress a wedding with me, you know. My lovely sister-in-law and my niece are part of the business, you know, and whenever they can come up, they dress weddings with me. Or we did a lot of weddings in Surrey and Hampshire as well. So in the beginning, it was set up and down the M4. So we dress weddings in Somerset, we dress weddings in Surrey. So it's kind of like gone from there. But now most of my weddings are really local now. So I've built up a really nice little local base of venues that I dress here. One specifically is very local, and I do all of their weddings, and they're gorgeous people, and I absolutely adore working with them. The White Hart in Llandilo. So we have a lot going on, and that's basically how I started and how I got into it. And I'm really glad I did, because I absolutely love every minute of it. I found something that I really, really love to do. And I think if you can find that in life, if you can find a job that you really, really enjoy and that you want to do, and you don't find, yes, it is stressful because you want to get it right. It's the most important part. You know, it's a big thing. These people are trusting you with their money and with the whole of how their wedding is looking. So it is stressful, and you need to get it right. But it's one of those good stresses. It's one of those stresses that make you want to work harder and make you want to get it right. And I love it, absolutely love it. So yes, it's good. That's how I started, and that's where I am now. Yeah.
So had you been interested in interior designs or styling or any of that kind of stuff before?
I loved it. Jeff would always say to me, he'd go home, he'd go to work, and he'd come home and the house would be a different colour. So yes, and he'll come home and the furniture's been moved, or there'll be another piece of furniture that's kind of like it been introduced, or something that's been introduced. I'm really lucky. He lets me do all of that, and he never moans, never complains. So yeah, I've always had a bit of an interest in that kind of thing. So, but it's kind of like I've fallen into it from my love of my home. Really, that's basically how it's come about.
I can remember we first met at a wedding fair, and I can remember trying the favours. That was going around. My first wedding fair. I was really nervous and really kind of insecure about the whole thing and not quite knowing what I should do or not. And I found somebody that we did, and I found some really crazy fellow suppliers. Not crazy at all, but just really, lovely and open.
I would put that in front of all of us, to be quite honest.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yes, the lovely thing about it is that you become a family. You become the lovely thing about the job that I do, that I have found personally anyway, is the support network that's there. I've made some really lovely friends. I've got some really beautiful suppliers that are so supportive of each other. Which in a business that's usually so competitive, it's really lovely and a breath of fresh air to find people that will actually have your back and be there for you, and they can be in the same business as you. I have no problem with referring people to other suppliers that do exactly the same thing for me as I do, if I think that they would be better suited to that supplier, if you know what I mean. I have no problem with doing that at all. I think it's really important that we all kind of like work together, and and Kutchfest, where we met, it's just perfect. It's such a fabulous environment, and we meet so many wonderful people, and the vibe is so good. It's a proper wedding festival. It's such good fun.
Yeah, and it is that supportive thing, isn't it? Of you feel like everybody wants to work together to make this the best possible day for each and every couple. That it's not, it's not. You're not Jobsworth.
You're not there to be the big I am. It's not my day. You're there to make sure that these two people that have trusted you and given you money, of hard-earned money, to make their day look as wonderful as possible. That's what you're there for. You're not there to polish your own halo. You're there to do a job. You're there for them, basically. That's it. You can't be there. You're not. It's nothing to do. It's not my day. It's their day, and you have to make sure that you get their day as perfect as possible as they see it in their own heads. Because every bride and groom has this picture in their head as to what their day is going to look like, and you've got, my job is to interpret that. You know, that's the biggest part, is interpretation of their dream, basically, and that's what you have to provide. So it's yeah.
So how on earth do you start?
You start. Wait, the first point of contact is really important. Getting back to people promptly is really important. Developing a relationship is really important. So I would never sit down with couples that get hold of me or ask me for a quote. I always suggest to them that we meet and have a cup of coffee and a slice of cake, and we sit down and we talk and we get to know each other a bit, because unless I get my couples, unless I get them and what their likes and their dislikes are and their ideas, you start pulling things out of people, especially when they're planning their big day, because there's a lot of discussion between each other, but unless they're singing off the same page, it's very difficult to get an idea of how to create the day that they want. So the most important thing is to get to know them, and they have to do the same with me. They have to like me, they have to get on with me, they have to feel that I'm the right person for their day. I'm not offended at all. If they feel that I'm not, that's fine. It's their day. But the first point of call is we sit down, and we may sit down a couple of times before we actually get the notebook out and we start planning exactly how their day is going to be. A lot of people come to me with Pinterest boards, about 50. You know, some people have loads. They have their own ideas of what they want, and we sit down and we get to know each other, and then we start pulling it all out, and then we start teasing the colours and teasing how the room is going to look and what they want to see when they walk through those doors, etc. So that's where we start. It's getting to know you. There's a song in that somewhere, isn't there? Yeah.
And Andrew Miller has joined us, so that's great. He was my first interviewee all those months ago. It feels like a very long time ago.
Interview. It was really lovely. Hello, Andrew.
Hi, Andrew. Can't remember how to get it back off the screen. Huh? There we go.
Don't ask me.
You never know. These things, it always takes practice, isn't it? It is really important, that relationship, isn't it? And I know that's something that we spent quite a lot of time talking about, Andrew and myself, on that first one, that actually the connection that you make with the couples is so important, so that you really know that you've understood what it is that they want. I mean, I can remember my husband and I agreeing to have terracotta in our bathroom. Our two visions of what terracotta was completely and utterly different.
Yeah.
And you kind of go, my goodness me. Yeah, and I was right. Obviously, I was right. In his mind, he was most definitely right. But it was fascinating that we, with something that we thought was exactly the same thing, our visions of it could be so different. So doing that in an abstract form, because obviously they've got, I suppose, again, when I got married, my reception was in a village hall, and it was an incredibly busy village hall. It had a mural all the way around the wall. It had been painted all the way around the walls. No point in doing anything, because that was there.
Yeah.
So that was if you didn't like it, then you didn't use that village hall.
Yeah.
So I think, would I be right in thinking that actually the venue dressing side of things, of the business, has really developed over the last 10, 15 years or so?
Oh, it's gone crazy, I think. But we're talking about back when I got married, none of the things that are available now were available when I got married at all. It's not something that anybody ever did. And I think things are being added to it all the time. And you just need to keep up with the introduction of new things. As I said, Pinterest is an amazing place where you see these incredible weddings being filmed, and people tend to want to look at Pinterest, get their ideas together, get their mood boards together, and then hand it to you. And it can be really difficult sometimes, because the things that you see nowadays, the additions to weddings, like the pergolas and everything like that, it's not something that ever used to happen. So I think that venue styling has really taken off hugely. And you're not just the stylist. This is the other thing that people don't quite understand. You don't just style the day. You don't just go in there and plop a few candles down, put a few chair covers on, tie a few bows. I have been a sorter outer of veils, a doer upper of wedding dresses, a straighten the train before she goes down the aisle person. I've taken dogs home. We've looked after dogs. we've done all sorts of things because you're there and you have this relationship with them. This is where we talk about the relationship. Your relationship becomes so close that a lot of my couples are actually now friends on my Facebook page. Because you develop that beautiful bond, that beautiful relationship, not with everybody, but with some, and I've developed it with quite a few, and it gets to the point where you are trusted beyond anything else on that day, and they're the one. If you're still there when the ceremony's finished and you have to turn the room around, there's lots of different ways of doing weddings. Obviously, if the ceremony and the reception are in the same room, the ceremony room then has to become the reception room, so you have to do what we call a turnaround, which is where the magic happens. The chairs get moved and tables get, and miraculously all these things appear in an extremely short space of time. But if you're there for that whole day, you're the familiar face, you're the person that if something isn't going quite right, maybe you're going to get asked, so you have to be prepared. And I've got pins, I've got all sorts in my little thing that I wear around my waist when we're dressing weddings. So it's not just the styling side of things that you're involved in, but styling's gone from nothing to the whole kit and caboodle. It's amazing how much it's changed over the years. Even in the 5 years that I've had my business, it's changed dramatically as well.
We've been joined by Lottie. It's evening, Lottie. She said hello to both of us. And so Lottie's a florist. I'm hoping that she's going to come and talk to me soon. I can't get her to commit to the date at the moment. So no pressure now, Lottie. You've been outed on screen.
These florists are the one, the other. I am so envious of the things that they can do. I love florists. To me, they suddenly the room pops and it changes. I add the candles, I can do all of that, but as soon as the flowers come in, it's just, you have to have a lovely relationship with the other suppliers that you're working with there, and respect is a really big thing. We have to respect each other when we're all together doing this room, because we all have the same goal. And it's making that room look absolutely amazing. So you have to get on with your suppliers, you have to be respectful of their roles, and learn from them, because it's a huge thing. I love it. I love watching other people working, and sometimes I can be sitting there going, oh my, how did you do that, and think, oh, I better go and get on with tying bows, and not get distracted by somebody else doing what they're doing. But I
think that's part of why I set this up, really, because I think there's obviously, I know my own area of work pretty well by now, but also with my history of backstage, that's my first job, was in theatre and backstage. So that magic is really important to me. I've always been involved in the magic, so I like to see how the magic happens. And it is that change around. It is, you take a room, a village hall, bog standard village hall.
You do.
And turn it becomes something completely different.
It does. And that's when I stand back and you're at the end of it and you go, yes, this is what we talked about. In my head, this is what I saw when I was speaking to you. When I was speaking to my couples, 9 times out of 10, by the time I finished, maybe on the second visit, by the time I finished talking to my couples, I already know what their room's going to look like. By the time we finished our discussions about the colours and how they'd like things to be and the centerpieces they'd like, and they'd shown me pictures and this, that, and I know where they're getting married and I know the venue. As soon as I know the room and I can see the room, I know what the room's going to look like. So it's a question of getting what's in here out there and making sure that I've interpreted what my couples want perfectly. And I would imagine florists, they're exactly the same. It's the interpretation of what the couples want, and then pulling it all together. So unless we all work together, you can forget it. It's you can't have suppliers not respecting each other and not working together, because that's not the point. The wedding industry is about couples coming together, isn't it? And that's what we should endeavour to do for our couples, is to make sure that we're all singing from the same hymn book, and that's, I find that really, really important. I love working with other suppliers. I find them fascinating, and I really enjoy getting to know them. It's lovely. And I follow them for inspiration. I follow several wedding venue dressers who I absolutely aspire to, because I think their work is absolutely out of this world. And some of them are local to me, some of them are an hour away down the road. One of them in particular, Naomi from the wedding business, her work is incredible, and I follow her because she inspires me, and I want to be that woman. I want to be that good at some point in my career. So I think doing that and having that level of respect for the other people around you and who you're working with, and aspiring to be better than you are today, is really important for all of us. So yes, working together is really important. Getting to know the venue, having a really good relationship with the venue, having a really good relationship with the other suppliers is vital in order to make the whole day go perfectly. You know, it's really important.
And you mentioned Pinterest. I think a lot of suppliers have a love-hate relationship with Pinterest. I know we talked about it with Joe at my last chat, because it only shows part of the story.
9 times out of 10 they're in California and they've got $10 million. You know, that's the difficult thing with it. That these weddings that they show on Pinterest and the ideas are incredible. They are incredible. Unless you're multi-talented and you're a florist and a venue stylist and all of those things together, it's very difficult to recreate those weddings perfectly, but it can be done, and we've done it. We've absolutely done it. You know, somebody's come along with their mood board that they've had Pinterest, that they may have 5 or 6 boards going and they couldn't decide which one they wanted, or the 5 or 6 different ideas, and they've chosen one. We've gone with it and it's worked brilliantly. And I actually love Pinterest. I don't have a problem with it at all. Jeff, on the other hand, my husband, hates Pinterest, because I will go to Jeff, I just had a bride send me this picture and this is what they'd really like, darling. And you're so clever. You're so clever. You can make me anything. He goes, what do you want now? So 9 times out of 10, he'll build me another archway, or he'll do this and he'll do that because somebody's seen it on Pinterest. I can't work a drill. I haven't got a clue. So I rely on my husband to kind of like do that. He's very talented in those, you know, in making and building things. So we do that together. So I don't have an issue with Pinterest. I actually find it really inspiring, and I sometimes think, I need to buy those because I want to have those in stock, and I'm going to source these things even though nobody's asked me for them, because I feel it's something that somebody may want in the future because I really like it, you know. And if I can suggest it to somebody as part in the conversation, you know, and they're going down that road anyway of, you know, pampas grass or whatever, it might be something that comes along. You can say, well, actually, we can do that. And I love being able to do that. I love being able to say, it's not a problem. You ask me. If I can do it, I will do it. If I can't do it, I'll tell you. So there's no lying. There's absolute straight, you know, there's the straight talk the whole way along. If I don't think I can do something, I'll tell you straight away, and I'll tell you to go and find somebody else. Or I will research somebody else and give you their names and say, these people would be able to do it for you. And if you choose to go and have all your venue dressing done with them, because they're going to give you a better deal than I can, you know, then you go ahead. So I don't have a problem doing that. So as far as I'm concerned, Pinterest is a really valuable tool, and it's given me loads and loads of ideas, and I love it. I love it. I'm not frightened of when people come and tell me they've been looking on Pinterest. I just go, what have you been doing? You know, so yeah, I don't find it frightening at all. Do
you think it gives people unrealistic expectations of what can be achieved in what kind of budget? I think that's quite often the issue, isn't it?
It does, because when you get, money is a big thing for everybody, and for some people it's more of an issue than for others. And being honest with people as to what they're going to achieve with the type of budget that they have sometimes can be really sad. You know, if they've seen all these wonderful weddings on Pinterest and think it can be achieved on a budget of £250, £300, they're going to be really, really disappointed. But there are things you can do. There are places these days that sell things that you can make look amazing with just a little bit of jiggery pokery and a little bit of magic. You know, it doesn't have to be, no, you can't have it. What you say is, we might not be able to recreate that exactly, but how about we look at this? So you have to kind of like steer in the idea, them to the idea of something that's going to be within their budget, so they get the idea and the look that they want, but they're not spending a fortune. They're not left feeling bereft and upset that they're not going to get the day that they want. That's my biggest fear. Is that people will come away so disappointed with the day that you give them, or the looks that you give them, because you haven't been honest and discussed it completely as to what the realistic goal is with their budget. You know, if money's no object, then lovely.
Yeah,
but
you can
that's
achieve
not the
anything.
case. That's not the case for most people. And most people, you have to be realistic. And 9 times out of 10, I do tend to give people a lot more for their money. If it's in my shed or in my barn and it's not being used and I think it's going to go with the theme, 9 times out of 10, it'll end up on the van. And I will just say to them, don't worry, I just felt it would look fantastic, so it's here. You know, I do that a lot. And I know other suppliers will be going, you shouldn't be doing that and all the rest of it. But it's if you feel it in your heart, it's the right thing to do, then I do it. And that's it. What's the point of it being in my barn? It could be somewhere lovely. So, you know.
So which way round does it work? Does it start with budgets and then ideas, or does it start with ideas and then budget, or is it very much, at what point does that conversation have to happen?
Right. Normally, when your couples get in contact with you, the first thing that they ask is, can we have a price for? Can we have a price for this? Can we have a price for that? And I used to do packages and I used to do that kind of thing. But I found that at the end of the day, so much more needed to be added into the package for the couples to be happy that I decided a bespoke approach was the best way. So now my attitude towards it is, give me your ideas, tell me the things that you'd like, and we'll go from there. And we'll work towards that. And then we start pricing. And then when I give them a price, it's a quotation or it's an estimate. So we can take things out, we can add things in, we can change things around until we get it to an amount that you can afford or that is affordable, or they find extra money if it's going above what they want. But it's the ideas for me, first of all. You know, if you start talking about money, you lose the direction of what you want your day to look like. Now, I know money is very important, but you can do an awful lot with a very small budget. And ideas come first, because it's the ideas that govern how that day is going to look. It's the bride and the groom's vision of their perfect day. So if they give me their vision and then we talk about money, then I can be honest and say, do you know what, we're going to have to look at changing this and doing this and maybe looking at something different here. And if you have, say, like hoods and ruffles, I know chair covers, okay, if we're going to talk about hoods and ruffles, they take twice as long to put on than a bow. Okay, right. So your cost is more with a hood and ruffle than it is with a bow. So if you're looking at doing 150 hoods and ruffles, say you charge them out £3.50 as opposed to maybe £2, for example. You know, for a boat, there's a big difference when you're dressing 150 chairs. That's an awful lot of money. It's a big difference. So sometimes people need to understand the way the venue stylist works and the job that's actually entails, because it's not just 5 minutes. It doesn't take 5 minutes to do these things. It's not a question of just throwing it on and being done with it. There's care and attention that's put into every single one to making sure everything looks perfect. So something might take you 2 or 3 times as long to do, and people have to understand that if that is the case, then the money side of it is going to be higher. So what you think you want for your dream day is not going to be achievable, because it may all be taken up in your chair dressings, for example. So you're maybe going to have to go back and revisit what you want. So if you understand what people want, first of all, then you talk about the money. That's how I do it anyway, rightly or wrongly. Other people are going to disagree with me, I know, and that's fine. Everybody has a different way of doing it. But for me, the vision and the ideas are more important, because that gives me an idea of where we're going with the budget side of things and what I'm going to be able to play with, if you know what I mean. So that's just how I do it. So yeah, it's far easier to come to me with an idea and say to me, this is what I'd like. Can we do it for this amount? And the answer is either yes or no, or how about we could do it for this, but how about we change it to that? How about, so there's ways and means around it. You know, but this is the thing about getting to know people. You know, it's very easy for somebody to say, give me a price for X, Y, and Z, and you go £3,000, and they go, you're out of my budget, and there's no discussion. There's no discussion straight away. I don't know exactly what you want for that 3,000. Do you know what? It's far more in depth than that, far more.
I think it's an interesting one. I'm very much of I suppose I got married 25 years ago. And I don't remember it being a thing. I don't remember. Yeah, maybe it was just it wasn't part of our budget. It wasn't part of the way that we were thinking. So it wasn't
Darling, it
there.
wasn't part of any of it. I didn't
Mm,
have any of that. I don't even think I had a set. I don't think I had centerpieces.
mm,
I had a wedding cake and a big party. You know, that's what I remember of my wedding. We didn't have any of these choices. These days,
mm,
it is a massive thing for people.
mm.
Massive.
And do you think people find it very difficult to not to kind of go, actually, we're not going to do any of that? We're going with the room as it is. We're just going to have the chairs as they are and the tables as they are.
I think that's only happened to me once, and then they changed their mind the night before.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a good job I had everything in stock, with the chair covers and the colours that they wanted. You know, that was very lucky.
Mm.
You know, I was messaged the night before saying, you know, I think I've made a huge mistake. I really like the chair covers covered. Is there any way? And you go, yeah, no worries. And they go, oh. And it's, at the end of the day, it is what it is. And
Mm.
I've never had a bare room. I've never had that.
Mm.
I've had people regret not doing certain things. But I've never had just somebody going in and say we're doing it as it is, unless it's been a pub do, you know, whatever. But then I'm not involved anyway.
No.
But you know, no, 9 times out of 10, it's a full on everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just extraordinary. I find it amazing. I get really interested in the prop hire and that kind of side of things. Again, from the theatre side of things, and going into venues and kind of going, interesting that people should feel the need to bring stuff in to do the dressing of, particularly in Herefordshire. There are a lot of big houses that people take over the whole house, and they're putting, you know, people are hiring dressing to go around the house when the house is already there, and I find it fascinating.
I think it's people adding their individuality to their day. That's what it's all about. It's adding your signature to the day that is yours. It's claiming the day, isn't it? That's what it's that's in its entirety. You do, obviously with Pinterest, and you have people that want to copy a look, but that look is still theirs. It's still how they have their day. It's never going to look the same as anybody else's, because they look different, their dress looks different, their bridesmaids are different, the photographs will be different because of the people in it. But maybe the look that they want encapsulates how they feel that they want their day to be. And you know, mansion houses are incredible. If I take Jack with me, by the time we've done the chairs, I've lost him. He's disappeared with his camera, and he's going out and taking pictures and all the rest of it with the stately home while we're doing the faffy bits, as he calls it, you know. But stately homes are incredible places, and they don't need a lot. But sometimes there's just those little touches, maybe lanterns up the stairs, you know, the little things like that just kind of like make it that fairy tale look that so many people want. It's just how they see their wedding in their own head. And that's as strange as it may be for some of us with some of the things that we do. You know, some of them are really quite wacky ideas, but that's their individual preference. And, you know, fair play, go and be different. You know, it's lovely, I think.
I'm all about people being different, all about people having what they want and being different.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting talking to Jo last time, but she's does stationery, and that thing about actually being something that carries all the way through. So it's that gives the uniformity, it ties everything together. And I suppose it is the same thing. So whether it's the colour, so it's the same colour that's used on the invitations that's then reflected in the chairs or the napkins or the whatever.
It's when people theme their weddings, when they have their theme, whether it be travel, the table names are places where they've been, where they fell in love, where they got engaged. All of those things have a huge meaning. So to incorporate that as part of your day makes your day really individual. And it just kind of like, it's that little thing, it's ours. Nobody can ever have what you created on that day because you created it. Yes, other people may have a donut wall, other people may have the flower wall, other people may have this, but it was never going to be the same as yours. I know it might look the same, but it's never going to be the same because it's your wedding. And then people said they just create this individual look for themselves that nobody else creates. And I think that's really, really important. I think the philosophy of weddings, I think if you looked at the philosophy and the psychology of the day, it's fascinating how people work and how people pull things together, and why it's so important to have the table name matching the run, all of those things matching where they've been, or the map that shows where people are going to sit to places where they've been in the world, that kind of thing. I think the levels of individuality that people show when they're planning their own day, they get so enthusiastic, and you can see the joy in people when they're planning these things, and it's things that mean so much to them that they want to incorporate them throughout the whole day. It's a joy, and it's a real privilege to do those kind of things. It's a real privilege to be part of it, and I absolutely love it.
I think it's that difference, isn't it, of something coming from within the couple. So as you say, incorporating their interests, their ideas, their journey together, all of that kind of stuff, and it reflecting them as a couple, which is what I do with the ceremony. So actually, that's all entirely built around them as a couple. So no two ceremonies could ever be the same, and it is having an expression. So the freedom to find your own way, to do it your own way, and probably also the switch from, certainly when my sisters got married, my parents effectively, or were very much more involved in the day, so that actually more across the board, parents would be kind of going, oh, you've got to have this many people coming because they're paying, whereas now, much more often, I think the couples are paying the majority of it.
The majority of the time, it's the couples that have saved up now, And I think 9 times out of 10, people come to you and say, this is what we want. This is what we're doing. This is how we're having our table plan. This is how we're doing X, Y, and Z. These are the colours that we want. And my job basically is to go pluck, 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 bring it together, and that's basically what we do now. It's a rare occasion that somebody says to me, I have no idea what I want. I have no idea. So that's the time when you sit down and you talk. That's the bit where you're having a coffee and a chat. That's where you start pulling things out of people. It's those people when they really don't know what they want on the day, or how they want it to look. But 9 times out of 10 these days, most people know exactly what they want, and they'll come to you and they say, can you do that? Can you recreate that? And your answer is yes, of course I can.
The answer is always yes. Somehow we'll find a way.
I am of the Richard Branson, if you don't know how to do it, learn. I've learned things. I've learned so much. I've learned how to do so much just by purely people coming and saying, this is what we want. Can you do it? And if I really can't do it, then I might admit defeat, but I don't think I've done that yet. I don't think we've done that yet.
I'm intrigued to know what's the closest. What kind of things have stretched you? Because obviously you've succeeded in doing all of them, but what kind of things have stretched you?
What kind of things have stretched me? Goodness me. I don't think there's been anything that's really stretched me. I think there's been things that have excited me. And so I've gone, yeah, we're going to do that. No worries. Harry Potter themed weddings were incredible. We did a Gothic wedding, and that was amazing. And I'd never done anything like that before. So thinking about those things, which are the Gothic side of me, I was really excited about, but I needed to make sure I got that right, because that's not who I am. That kind of thing. But nothing has really, I wouldn't say anything has stretched me to the point where I think I can't do this. Because I don't believe I don't believe in telling myself that I can't do something. You find a way to do it. You find a way to deliver. And as I said, I'm really lucky. I've got a very creative mum. I've got my niece and my sister-in-law are very creative. Jeff is really creative. So if I need things, we pull it together and we do it that way. If I can't do it, then I'll tell somebody straight away, no, that's just no way. The only time I have said no, I was really lucky. I've worked for the traveller community a couple of times, and we did a beautiful wedding, and that was a sequin backdrop. It was a bespoke sequin backdrop that we had to make. And from that wedding, I had another one of their family weddings, which was wonderful. And I learned from that to always make sure that you have double of everything that you need. and which was lovely. They're just so beautiful people, beautiful family. But the next time they wanted a wedding, because it seems to me once you dress a traveller wedding and they trust you, that the trust is very, very important within them. They tend to use you for most things, but each wedding got bigger and bigger and bigger. And the last one they asked me to do, I knew I couldn't do it. I knew that was a thing that I was going to have to hand over to somebody, and it's basically to the Asian market, the Asian venue stylists. If you've ever seen an Asian wedding, they are just the most incredible theatrical. Where I could never achieve that in a million years. I don't have the funds, I don't have the stock, I don't have the staff, and that's the only time that I've said I can't. But this is where you need to go. You know, so that's what stretched me the most, and I was really disappointed. I was so disappointed because it's not something that I give up lightly, and I really loved the family. The family was really important, and for me to be able to say I can't do that, it's out of my ability, was kind of something that kind of like stuck with me. And I thought, I don't want to feel that way again. I don't want to feel that again. I want to be able to say yes, I can. But the reality is that you can't say yes, you can to everything. Because I'm not trained in design, I'm not an artist, I'm not any of those things. I do this because this is what I love, and I happen to have a skill at it, I think now. But for some people it's some people I wouldn't have the skills that they require. But I'm not one of these people that would stand there and say that I could do it if I couldn't. You have to be honest.
It sounds like that's a matter of scale more than anything else, because if you're looking at the Asian wedding market, you're looking at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of people being involved.
Type scale, and when there's just you, it's kind of like the first one was big enough. The second one was even bigger, and that was a stretch. But I had the lovely thing was it was in Milton Keynes. My brother lives in Milton Keynes, so I had my brother and his wonderful wife, and it was a big family affair. We were all there and we all dressed this day, and it was fantastic. But I knew that I was really stretching it at that point. So to do the next one for them was going to be require an events company. And I have to say the events company was incredible and the wedding looked beautiful, but it's not something. Thank you, Lottie. They did. They're still friends of mine. They're friends of mine on Facebook. They are beautiful, beautiful people. But it's if you can't do something, you need to say so. There's no good in disappointing somebody on the day. Your reputation is only as good as what somebody thinks of you, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And they recommended me. They've recommended me so many times. They recommended me, and these weddings are not tiny weddings. We're not talking about these weddings would be worth a lot of money to the supplier. But if it's not something I could do, I was just going to disappoint them, and it's not something I was prepared to do. So, I think if more people were honest like that in this world, especially in our business, there wouldn't be as many scammers going on, which really upsets me.
No, absolutely.
Oh, it makes my blood boil. It's such an important day, and it's to do with people's money. You have to respect that about people, and to do that to people it makes me really, really angry. And sadly, you see so much of it, especially now, which is not good. Not good.
So on a practical note, now I noticed you mentioned barn, and you mentioned there's another store. Because obviously as a dresser, then you're talking about lots of chairs, you're talking about lots of different colours of chair covers and bows and tablecloths, and how on earth does it work? Because it must cost a small fortune to buy everything in to then how does that happen?
It happens. And you throw your goats out of their barn, basically. You make your husband make goat stalls in the other barn so you can have their barn to store more of your stuff in. That's basically. And I've taken over his stores as well. So I've basically got 2 barns full of stock. I have got 700, 800 chair covers, must have. thousands and thousands of sashes, thousands. There's candelabra coming out my ears, there's vases coming out my ears, some of them are on my table. But no, there's a lot. You have to have space. That's the one thing. If you're going to do this job, you have to have space, because you have to buy the stock in. If somebody wants something, you have to have it, and it comes in with the price, etc. But theoretically, you know, if you don't have the stock, you can't do the job. If you're just going to do chair covers and sashes, that's fine. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. And you could probably do that in a spare bedroom, unless you start going mad and you get thousands and thousands of sashes. There's no way I get all my sashes in the spare bedroom. It's a nightmare. There's boxes of them everywhere. But you do need to have space, or you need to be able to hire a unit. That's what you need. And I am big enough now that we've ordered, and it's coming in a new shed that's going to go up, that's specifically for my stuff, basically, so we can create a showroom here. Which is what we're going to have. Don't forget my
invitation.
Don't you
coffee
worry. Well,
coffee shed.
Barn. What we get asked for all the time is, do you have a showroom where we can come and see your things? And my answer is, I don't. We need to create that, and it's getting to the point now where it's I do showcases. I do a specific showcase at the venue where I'm the in-house stylist at the White Hart. We do a showcase usually once a year, and my things will be there, but not everything is going to be there. So the whole idea of actually having an area where a lot of your things can be out on show, and brides and grooms can come in and say, we like that, we like that, we like that, can we do that, can we have this? Otherwise I've got to go trading through boxes, and I've got to find it, and it makes it very disjointed. And I would really like to be able to show people into a showroom and say, right, this is your choice here, this is your choice here. I'm really lucky where I live. I live on a small holding. We've got lots of space. We've got bar. We're going to be able to do it. And I have a very understanding husband who's just agreed to do it, haven't you, Jeff? Yes.
Is it Jeff doing the cooking as well?
He's probably going to make something go ping in the microwave in a minute.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Not making me hungry at all.
Oh, I know.
It almost feels like I can smell it at the moment. It's most unfair.
Well, it's a lot of the people that I follow, the designers and the stylists that I follow, that I find inspiring, this is what they do, and it's professional, and it's the way I want to be. So we've had lots of discussions, and we've agreed that this is how it's going to be presented. So in March, new shed's going up. That's what we're going to create. I'm really, really lucky to be able to do that, I know. So yeah, it's the procurement of everything that you require has to be stored somewhere. And if you're going to be in this business, you have to have somewhere to store stuff, because a garage isn't going to do it. No.
It must be so difficult, because I suppose if people are coming with their particular dream or their vision, and you're buying stuff in for there. Yeah. But ideally, you need to be able to use that more than once, don't you? You need to cover your costs properly. You need to be able to.
You do.
Incorporate that in other.
You do. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can't, but that's the name of the game. That's how it goes. You know, you're there to do. You're there to create the day that your bride and groom wants. Your price reflects that. And if you end up never using them again, you sell them on. You know, you have that option, or you keep them and say, just in case. I'm a bit of a hoarder. I'm dreadful. And usually 9 times out of 10, most people have asked me for things that I know will be used again. Not hundreds of times. Some things have been used loads and loads of times that I never thought would ever be used, but they have been. And some things never get used, and they sit in a box, and they're never going to see the light of day. But especially your themed weddings, if it's an Alice wedding or a Harry Potter, they don't come up. You know, I'm very like the last Alice wedding we did. It was supposed to have been last year, but they postponed it. So it just gives me more time to be creative with the centerpieces, which is lovely, because Alice is a great thing to do. But it's things sit in their boxes because people don't do them. You don't have an Alice wedding every other weekend. It just doesn't happen. So the things that you get for those, you're going to have to understand that you're probably not going to use them again, and just deal with that. Sometimes you take a loss, sometimes it's not, but it's the way the business goes. Every business is like that. you know, but the majority of time things get used. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, it's always interesting, and those more quirky ones, so that aren't necessarily going for a full-on theme, but
Yeah.
suddenly they see something going, I really like that. I'd like
Yeah.
that to be part. I don't know why, but I'd really like that.
The gothic, the gothic wedding that we did. Yeah, there's things there that I know I will probably never use again, like a couple of skulls that, you know, but they looked absolutely amazing on the day. And when I look at them, I just go, oh, we did it, and it's lovely, and yes, we've got them, and that's fine, you know. But they're obviously it's the quirky things, but they're unique, aren't they? It's what makes the world go round.
And they will come out again, skulls all over the place.
Sure.
Get a steampunk wedding in, you'll be fine. You know?
Oh God, I've got to do one of those. I want to
Come on.
it. I tell you.
Bring it on. You know, Unity is there. She's waiting. I'm surrounded by her in this room. But I can't see. I managed to break the wardrobe when I was doing my last interview, trying to move it out of shot. So I've given up these days.
Oh, right. Okay, just shoving everything in there.
Just trying to move it around. But so I'm aware of the fact we've got 9 minutes left. Can you believe?
No, have we?
Yeah, madness. We've been talking. So I wanted to see if you've got any thoughts about direction of where things are going. Now, obviously, there were trends that were all set up to happen in 2020 for weddings that then didn't happen. Do you think that those will carry over into 2021, or do you think the people are now kind of going, actually having a complete rethink, or we're doing things completely differently? Or
nobody has come to me and said that they're rethinking their wedding. Nobody yet. If they do, fine, not a problem. I tell a lie, actually. We had one that was going to happen in April that's happening in September next year now. And that is a complete rethink, but that's fine. The colours and everything are fine because we have them. I bought that. I was discussing with you about trends and having to buy stock when it's there sometimes, because if there's a trend going on, like sage green chiffon, everybody wanted it. And if you didn't buy it, you were never going to get it. Or you'd have to wait till 6 months' time, and your wedding might be, you know, it can be a nightmare sometimes. So sometimes it's good to have the stock of the things that you know are going to be on trend at that point. But as this moment in time, nobody, unless they see this and they suddenly think about it,
I'm going to change now.
Yeah, I'm going to change. I haven't had any of that. But if they do, that's fine. It's their prerogative. It's not a problem. We can do it at the end of the day. I knew back in March that all my weddings were going to be postponed. So if people choose to change when they've rescheduled their dates, they have that prerogative. It's not as if I've got the colours, etc. I think I have so many. I have a majority of colours that people want. I have a majority of sashes that people want. So to me, it's not a big deal. If they want to change, they change. It's their day. It's not my day. It's their day.
I guess quite often that's to do with if you're going from being a spring wedding to being an autumn wedding.
Exactly.
Then the feel you might want that to change. Yeah.
I mean, the trends were going away from like pastels and things, and we were going into more your stronger colours with your burnt oranges and navy blue. That was a trend towards the latter part of last year. So whether that continues or not, or they change their minds, but that's an incredible colour combination anyway. It's beautiful. It's really strong. But things like your Hessian, your lace, your vintage, all of those things, they're still they are really powerful, and they're still something that people really love. So you know, if people change and it's no big deal. You just got to go with the flow. That's after the last year, my vision is now whatever comes is a good, you know, let's just go with it. I am not going to be stressed about it. I really, really am not. There's too much of that going on. My brides don't need me being stressed. They need me to be saying to them, it's fine. Don't worry. I'm here. I am here for all my brides. I'm not going anywhere. We had this conversation. I'm really lucky. My business will come out of this and I will be fine. So all of my brides, all of my weddings will be no problem at all. So it depends. If they want to change, then they change. It's fine. It's fine with me. We do what we need to.
So where do the trends come from? Who decides what's going to be on trend this year?
You tell me. I'd like to know that. Fashion houses have a lot to do with it, with colours.
Yeah.
you know, but we haven't seen a lot of that this year, have we? Because there's been no crazy catwalks going on. There's been no colour trends going on. A lot of the time, you'll get quirky trends coming, like pampas grass, dried flowers, silk flower, those kind of things. They come in, but Pinterest has a lot to do with that. There's a lot to do with that, but colours mainly are your biggest thing. And everybody says this is going to be a big colour this year and this is going to be a big colour. Well, 9 times out of 10, you might get a couple of weddings that choose that colour, but everybody is individual. They all have their favourite colour. Everybody has a favourite colour, what they're going to have for their wedding day.
And what is saying Pantone colour of the year? And what is Pantone's colour of the year this year? Who knows? Who knows? I have no idea.
They're responsible for the whole lot, aren't they? They're responsible for the whole lot. I don't tend to look at that because my brides dictate the trend at the end of the day. My brides, they're all individual and their individuality dictates how the weddings look. So yes, I may go. The sage chiffon was a thing for me because I fell in love with it. You know, it's one of my favourite colours. I absolutely adore it, and it's something that I wanted to have. Very luckily, my bride, one of my brides who's moved to her wedding, is using the sage the green, and it's going to look absolutely beautiful. But because I'm a vintage, quirky country girl, those are the things that I love anyway. So it's like a bit of a hoarding thing. But yeah, I tend to let the individuality of my brides come through rather than be dictated as to what is the in thing, because we're not in Hollywood at the end of the day. You know, people have a mind.
It is interesting how influenced brides can be by it doesn't really affect me in that way, so I'm always intrigued as to who sets it going. Who said that? Yes. Yeah. Who said it was going to be violet? Who said it was going to be?
I didn't agree with that. Yes. It is, yeah. Lottie's quite right. It is dictated. There's a couple of big entities that dictate what colour is the in colour, but 9 times out of 10, you might see it in America a great deal, but you don't see it here as much. I don't think anyway. I don't, because we don't deal with that. We just have our individuality and that's it.
We're all about the individual. We love being all about the individual. So if in the last few minutes, have you got any advice for couples? So obviously we've just had Christmas and New Year, a time when a lot of people get engaged.
Yeah.
Have you got any advice as to how for couples to how to start their planning, particularly obviously with a view to wedding dresses, to venue dressing?
To styling.
Thank you. That's the one.
If your most important things are, you need your venue, you need your date for the church, the things that are important. Photographers, absolutely. Celebrants, yes, celebrants, exactly. Exactly. The people that get booked up quickly and first, that is what they have to concentrate on. So getting a date, knowing where and when they want to get married. I don't know what the rules are now regarding marriages outside and whether are they legally binding yet. I think it's ridiculous that they're not.
Not yet. No, there's a big question at the moment. There's a big the Law Commission review going through, so that's just closed today, I think.
Well, fingers crossed for that, because you should be able to get married legally under an oak tree if that's what you require, because if that's where you're the happiest. I didn't get married in the church. That's my preference. So there was no other option for me than the registry office, because but it shouldn't be the only option now. But anyway, so you need to get the things that get booked up quickly booked. Don't leave things to the last minute. Don't leave your photographer to the last minute, because 9 times out of 10, the photographer you want is going to be gone. And if you see a stylist that you really like and you really like to work with them, then book them. Book things as soon as you know what you want, basically. And don't leave things to the last minute and be disappointed. Some people can organise a wedding in 2 days, and that's lovely, but there's a lot of compromises made there. Many people, I've got bookings coming in for 2023, so people are looking ahead, and because they like my work, they want to make sure they book me, so deposits are being paid, and that's that. So once you know the style you want, what you want, where you want, book it and do it. But get your dates, your celebrant or your church, those things need to be booked first, because without those, nobody else is going to know whether they're available or not. you know, so you need to get those things sorted. So it's happy planning all the way after that. You know, you have the time, and then you talk to your stationer regarding dates and, you know, save the date and all those kind of things. But those things come after you know that you've got the main important ones done. So being organised is really vital. Having a planner is a really good thing. Remembering what you've booked and who you've booked and who you've paid is a really important thing. So I have had brides book 2 DJs for the same night, and both DJs turned up with both having the same booking. The husband had done one and the wife had done the other, and they hadn't talked to each other. Communication is key. Those things, communication is key. Saying what you want is key, and making sure that you have your priorities right with regards to when you're going to get married and who you're going to ask to do it for you. As far as the styling goes, I always say up to 6 weeks beforehand. After 6 weeks before the date of the wedding, you can't change, because I would have bought things in, you know, and it will be a repricing issue after that. So 6 weeks before your due date, your wedding date is my cutoff point. Usually we can add things in, and I can be pretty flexible, which I am. I am pretty flexible, because I don't like saying no, I can't, you know. But things can change. But I have now given myself that 6 week cutoff, because otherwise it cuts too fine and people change their minds and you can't give them what they want. But being organised, communication, and writing things down is a really good thing to do. Definitely.
Brilliant. Well, we are now over time, would you believe? And our massive audience of 3 is still with us, which is fantastic. We've been down to none. Yay! We've been up to 3. I think we had 4 at one point, which is fantastic. Thank you so much for spending this last hour with me, Julia. It's been lovely to spend, this is probably the longest we've managed to spend time together, and to find out a bit more about what goes on behind the scenes with you. And I know I'd be there tying the knots with you, because I get absolutely fascinated by changes and the way that
you tying bows next time I see you, when you watch it.
Absolutely, I've done it many a time.
You have a job.
There we go. I might need one, you never know. Thank you to everybody that has listened. Thank you to anybody that listens to this in the future. Hopefully it's of some use. So it's Julia from Harmony
Event Design.
Harmony Event Design.
Harmony Event Design is perfect. I have to go change my Facebook page now.
Harmony Event Design goes on forever and a day. But Harmony Event Design, and it's me, Jane Grayer from Create Ceremonies. If you've got any questions, wherever you see this being shared, then please send them over to us. We're always going to be happy to answer anything that we possibly can. And hopefully I'll see you in a fortnight's time with a surprise guest. I don't know if they've agreed or not yet, but if it's not them, it'll be somebody else. So who knows? Exciting. And welcome to 2021. Let's see what this year brings. Thank you very much indeed. Take care, everybody.
Bye.